war surrounds it, yet here, life has taken a shape found nowhere else on Earth. Far out in the Arabian Sea, closer to the Horn of Africa than to mainland Arabia, an island rises from turquoise water like a fragment of another planet. It belongs to Yemen, a nation long associated with conflict and headlines of unrest. But this place feels untouched by those narratives. Socotra sits in isolation, drifting between continents, between climates, between worlds. From above, the island appears harsh and skeletal. Limestone plateaus glow pale beneath the sun. Jagged mountains push upward from the center, their peaks weathered by millions of years of wind. Along the coast, cliffs drop into waters so clear they seem unreal, as if the island floats rather than rests upon the sea. Socotra is not large. It stretches roughly 130 kilometers in length. Yet within that modest scale, it holds one of the highest concentrations of endemic species on the planet. Nearly a third of its plant life exists nowhere else. Evolution here did not just adapt, it diverged. Isolation shaped everything. Separated from mainland Africa millions of years ago, the island became a living laboratory. While continents shifted and climates transformed, Socotra remained cut off. Seeds carried by wind or birds landed on rocky soil and slowly transformed. Animals that arrived found no predators. Plants that sprouted faced fierce sun, little water, and relentless salt-laden air. Over time, survival demanded innovation. Trees grew thick trunks to store moisture. Leaves shrank to reduce evaporation. Roots clung to cliffs where soil barely existed. The result is a landscape that feels almost engineered, as though nature experimented freely without oversight. And yet, humans live here. Roughly 60,000 people call this island home. Small villages rest between mountains and coast. Whitewashed homes cluster near sheltered coves. Goats wander freely across plateaus. Fishermen launch wooden boats into shifting tides. Life moves slowly, shaped by weather more than by clocks. The tension is quiet but constant. Socotra belongs to a region scarred by war, But the island itself has remained largely insulated from direct violence. Its remoteness protects it. Flights are rare. Shipping routes bypass it. There are no sprawling resorts, no highways slicing a centuries. Outsiders describe this place in whispers. Ancient sailors spoke of dragon's blood trees and healing resins. Traders once sailed from East Africa and Arabia seeking incense harvested from bark. Stories circulated of strange flora, of towering umbrella-shaped canopies, of white dunes melting into turquoise lagoons. Many doubted those stories. Yet the island endured, quietly preserving its biological secrets, while the surrounding region shifted through empires, trade routes, and modern conflict. Portuguese explorers passed through in the 16th century. Later, the British Empire claimed influence as part of its maritime network. Still, the island remained peripheral to power, peripheral to history. That marginality became protection. While industrial expansion transformed ecosystems across the globe, Socotra remained difficult to access. No large-scale agriculture reshaped its plateaus, no factories lined its shores. The sea remained rich with fish. The mountains remained wind-carved and raw. But isolation is fragile. Climate patterns are shifting. Development pressures grow. And in a world increasingly mapped and monetized, untouched places rarely stay untouched. Standing on a high plateau at dusk, the island feels silent, almost suspended in time. The air carries salt and dust. The horizon stretches unbroken in every direction. No skyline interrupts the view. No distant traffic hum disturbs the wind. It feels ancient. And yet, beneath that stillness, questions rise. How did life here become so different? How does a community survive between harsh terrain and geopolitical uncertainty? And how long can this fragile equilibrium endure? Socotra exists in contradiction. It is both vulnerable and resilient, both remote and strategically positioned, both fragile and fiercely alive. The world rarely speaks of it. But perhaps that silence has been its greatest defense. At first glance, the land appears barren, almost lifeless, as if the sun has stripped it down to bone. The interior rises sharply from the coast into the Hajar Mountains, jagged granite peaks that cut into the sky like broken glass. Their surfaces are scarred by time, carved by monsoon winds that sweep across the Arabian Sea each year with quiet violence. During those months, waves batter the shoreline and clouds cling to high ridges, releasing brief but vital bursts of rain. Water does not linger here. It seeps quickly into limestone or evaporates under relentless heat. Yet somehow, life persists. Across the Dixam Plateau, the soil is thin and pale, scattered with stone and scrub. Then, without warning, silhouettes appear against the horizon, thick trunks rising into umbrella-shaped crowns. The dragon's blood tree stands like a frozen fountain, its canopy spreading wide and dense, casting shade upon itself. Its form is deliberate. The tightly packed leaves channel moisture downward. The trunk stores water within fibrous tissue. When cut, it bleeds a dark crimson resin once prized as medicine and dye. There is nothing accidental about its design. Nearby, bottle trees swell at the base, their smooth trunks shaped like amphorae. In the dry season, they appear dormant, leafless, and sculptural. When rare rains fall, bursts of green erupt from their branches. Flowers bloom briefly, pale pink against a landscape of stone. Then they retreat again, conserving strength for the next uncertain season. The island's coastline shifts dramatically from one side to the other. On the northern shore, white sand dunes rise like drifts of snow, shaped by wind that never truly rests. Behind them, freshwater pools collect where underground streams reach the surface. These hidden basins shimmer beneath palm trees, offering brief sanctuary to birds and grazing animals. Further west, cliffs plunge directly into deep blue water. Waves carve caves into limestone walls. Salt spray coats the rock, crystallizing under heat. Coral reefs stretch offshore, forming a vivid underwater barrier alive with color and movement. Above the surface, seabirds circle in patient arcs. Below, parrotfish graze along coral heads. Spinner dolphins cut through clear water in coordinated bursts of motion. The sea, like the land, feels both exposed and protected. Socotra sits at a biological crossroads. It lies between Africa and Arabia, between the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea. Seasonal monsoons reverse direction each year, carrying currents that shift nutrients and temperature. These patterns shape migration routes, breeding cycles, and flowering seasons. Nothing here follows a simple rhythm. During the southwest monsoon, powerful winds isolate the island almost completely. Boats remain anchored. Travel becomes nearly impossible. Waves tower offshore. For months, Socotra turns inward. Villages rely on stored supplies. Nature absorbs the storm. Then the winds change. Calm returns gradually. Fishermen resume their journeys. Goats wander further across open plains. Children play along beaches that only weeks before were inaccessible. The island exhales. But beneath this cyclical calm, the environment remains demanding. Temperatures climb above 40 degrees Celsius in summer. Shade is precious. Water is rationed carefully. Wells tap into underground reserves that must be protected. And still, new species continue to be identified. Researchers who arrive here often describe a feeling of disorientation. The trees look unfamiliar. The air feels heavier with salt. Even the scent of vegetation carries a resinous sharpness. Walking through certain valleys feels like stepping into an earlier geological era, when Earth's flora had not yet standardized into recognizable forms. It raises a quiet question overhead. Wind brushes against rock and leaf, insects hum softly in dry grasses. The island does not roar, it whispers. Its beauty is not lush or overwhelming. It is spare, deliberate, sculpted by scarcity rather than abundance. And that scarcity shapes everything that survives here. On this island, survival is never assumed. It is negotiated each day between heat, salt, and stone. In the early hours before sunrise, the air holds a brief coolness. Small reptiles emerge from crevices in limestone, absorbing the first thin warmth of light. Socotra's reptiles dominate its land fauna. With few natural predators and limited competition, they adapted into distinct forms. Geckos cling to rock faces with translucent toes. Skinks dart between thorny shrubs. Many exist nowhere beyond this island's edges. Bird life moves differently. Egyptian vultures circle overhead, their shadows gliding across plateaus. Sunbirds flicker between blossoms of desert roses. During migration seasons, species traveling between Africa and Eurasia pause here, drawn by freshwater pools and relative safety. For them, Socotra is a vital resting point in a vast aerial corridor. But life here remains sparse. Large mammals are absent. There are no sprawling herds crossing open plains. Instead, goats, introduced centuries ago, have become one of the island's most visible inhabitants. They graze freely, climbing steep slopes with astonishing balance. For local families, they represent security, milk, meat, trade. Yet goats also reshape the ecosystem. Young dragons' blood saplings struggle against overgrazing. Regeneration slows. What once grew naturally now depends on careful balance between human need and ecological survival. This tension is subtle but persistent. Human presence on Socotra stretches back thousands of years. Archaeological traces suggest early settlers navigated monsoon winds to reach its shores. Ancient inscriptions found in caves hint at contact with traders from southern Arabia, East Africa, and even the Mediterranean. Frankincense and myrrh roots once threaded through these waters, linking distant civilizations. Over time, island communities developed a rhythm shaped by isolation. The Soqotri language, distinct from mainland Arabic dialects, carries echoes of ancient South Arabian tongues. Oral poetry preserves memory. Knowledge of weather patterns passes through generations. Fishing techniques remain adapted to monsoon cycles. Stone houses cluster in valleys sheltered from wind. Roofs are flat, walls thick. Wells are dug deep where fresh water collects beneath porous rock. In the mountains, herders move seasonally with their animals, seeking patches of vegetation after rare rains. Resilience here is practical, not romantic. Children learn early how to read clouds, how to conserve water, how to recognize edible plants. Women gather resin and medicinal herbs. Men mend nets beside wooden boats shaped by hand. Electricity has arrived in some areas, along with mobile phones and satellite dishes, yet daily life still revolves around natural limits. Occasionally, aid organizations and conservationists arrive, concerned about biodiversity loss. They document species, map habitats, propose protective measures. The island's designation as a UNESCO World Heritage Site acknowledged its ecological uniqueness, bringing international attention. Attention brings opportunity. It also brings risk. Tourism remains limited but growing. Visitors come seeking alien landscapes, clear waters, and rare species. Small guest houses appear along the coast. Guides lead hikes through mountains and plateaus. For local families, tourism offers income beyond fishing and herding. But every new road, every imported product, shifts equilibrium. Plastic waste accumulates where there was once only sand. Overfishing threatens coastal reefs. Climate change alters rainfall patterns, making already scarce water even more unpredictable. Storm intensity fluctuates, eroding dunes and cliffs. Still, adaptation continues. Communities debate conservation zones. Elders speak about past seasons of drought and abundance. Young people consider education abroad, weighing opportunity against attachment to home. The island stands at a quiet crossroads, not dramatic, not explosive, but steady and consequential. Here, survival has always depended on adjustment. The question now is whether adjustment can keep pace with a rapidly changing world beyond the horizon. Identity here is rooted not in borders, but in memory carried through wind and stone. In village gatherings after sunset, stories move softly between generations. Elders speak of seasons when the monsoon arrived early, of years when fish were abundant, of times when outside ships appeared on the horizon like uncertain omens. The island's history was never written in grand monuments. It lives in voices, in repetition, in careful preservation of detail. The Soqotri language itself is a quiet act of resilience. It carries rhythms older than many modern states, its sound shaped by centuries of isolation. Words describe subtle differences in wind direction, in soil texture, in the stages of plant growth. Language here is practical, but it is also identity, an anchor against cultural erosion. Spiritual life on the island blends Islamic tradition with older layers of belief tied to landscape. Certain trees are treated with reverence. Caves are approached with caution and respect. Mountains are not merely geological forms, they are presences, shaping weather and mood. The dragon's blood tree, with its wide protective canopy and crimson resin, has long symbolized endurance. Its bleeding sap once traveled across oceans as medicine and incense, yet on the island it remains simply part of life's fabric. In the past, isolation preserved culture. Now, connection reshapes it. Satellite dishes rise above stone rooftops. Social media reaches even remote plateaus. Young islanders watch distant cities through glowing screens, measuring their own lives against images of speed and abundance. Some leave to study or work on the mainland. Some return with new ideas, new expectations. Change arrives quietly but persistently. There is pride in the island's uniqueness. UNESCO recognition brought validation, a global acknowledgement that this land matters. Conservation projects create jobs and education opportunities. Roads improve access between coastal villages and mountain communities. Medical care becomes more reliable, yet each advancement introduces complexity. Modern materials replace traditional construction. Imported food alters diets. Plastic bottles gather along once pristine shores. Cultural ceremonies, once central to communal life, compete with digital distraction. Elders worry about language loss. Younger generations negotiate between heritage and aspiration. The tension is not dramatic. It is subtle and ongoing. Meanwhile, the wider region remains unstable. Yemen's broader conflict casts a shadow, even if the island has been largely spared direct violence. Governance shifts. External powers express strategic interest due to Socotra's position near vital shipping routes. Military presence, though limited, reminds residents that geography carries geopolitical weight. For many on the island, these dynamics feel distant, yet unavoidable. They focus instead on rainfall, on fishing yields, on school attendance. They gather for weddings that stretch long into the night, drums echoing across open sand. They share meals beneath woven mats, children laughing as wind moves through palms. Culture here is not performative. It is lived. Still, the question lingers beneath daily routines: how much can change before something essential is lost? When development accelerates, when global attention increases, can an ecosystem and a culture so delicately balanced endure intact? Standing on a plateau at twilight, watching shadows lengthen beneath dragon's blood trees, the island feels suspended between eras. Ancient forms silhouette against fading light. In the distance, a faint glow from a generator hums in a coastal village. Past and present share the same horizon. The balance remains fragile, but it is not yet broken. From the edge of a high cliff, the island appears both impossibly small and immeasurably vast. Sea stretches outward in every direction, indifferent and endless. Behind, mountains rise in layered silence. Between them, life persists in forms that seem improbable under such relentless sun. The longer one stands here, the clearer it becomes Socotra is not simply a remote island. It is a reminder. In a century defined by acceleration, faster travel, faster communication, faster consumption, this place moves at the pace of wind and tide. It resists urgency. It does not offer spectacle in the conventional sense. There are no neon skylines, no engineered attractions. Instead, there is patience carved into stone, adaptation written into bark and bone. What makes Socotra extraordinary is not only its strangeness, but its restraint. The dragon's blood trees do not grow quickly. They expand slowly, year by year, their canopies widening with deliberate care. Coral reefs build over centuries, polyp by polyp. Wells fill gradually beneath limestone. Even language evolves at a measured rhythm, shaped by isolation rather than influence. Modern psychology often speaks of resilience as a personal trait, the ability to endure stress, to adapt under pressure. On this island, resilience is ecological, it is communal, it is embedded in systems rather than individuals. Scarcity forced innovation long before the term existed. Limited resources cultivated cooperation. Harsh seasons demanded foresight. There is no excess here, and perhaps that absence of excess is the lesson. The world beyond Socotra is crowded with abundance and depletion intertwined. Forests disappear, oceans warm, cities expand outward with little pause for reflection. In contrast, this island demonstrates a different equation, survival through balance rather than dominance. Yet balance is not static. Climate models predict rising temperatures and shifting monsoon patterns across the Arabian Sea. Even small variations could disrupt delicate water cycles. Increased global interest may bring investment, infrastructure, and strategic competition. Tourism may expand beyond its current modest scale. Each force carries potential benefit and potential harm. The island cannot remain frozen in time, nor should it. Its people deserve opportunity, education, healthcare, connection. Preservation does not mean isolation from progress. The deeper question is whether progress can align with ecological integrity rather than override it. As dusk settles, wind moves through the canopy of a dragon's blood tree with a soft, almost oceanic sound. The sky deepens from gold to indigo. Villages begin to glow faintly with scattered lights. Somewhere offshore, a fishing boat returns, engine low and steady. Socotra does not demand attention. It endures quietly, holding within its boundaries a version of Earth that feels both ancient and urgently relevant. A war-scarred region shelters one of the planet's rarest ecosystems. Isolation has protected it. Now awareness may determine its future. Perhaps the island's greatest power lies not in its alien forms, but in the perspective it offers. That life can diverge beautifully when left undisturbed. That resilience grows from limitation. That remoteness can be sanctuary rather than neglect. In the end, Socotra is less a destination than a question. What would the world look like if more places were allowed to evolve without interruption? The answer stands here, windswept and quiet, beneath trees that bleed red and refuse to disappear.